Hi everybody, I'm Kirsten Nordia and this is the completion of day 2 of the family mediation training. For those of you that haven't been following the blog or the YouTube channel, I am attending the National Family Mediation training, and I'm doing a video blog after each day to let you know exactly what the training's about and to talk about my experiences during the training. So today I'm going to be talking about day 2 of module 1. Module 1, as we heard yesterday, is the introduction to mediation. So we're learning a bit about the process and the principles of mediation, all the key skills that you would need as a mediator in order to do family mediation with families, with couples. So last night we were asked to read an excerpt from Lisa Parkinson's Separating and Divorcing Couples, Patterns of Communication and Conflict, and this is available on Amazon. So today we basically did an overview of what the day would hold. We looked at the learning outcomes from yesterday, from day 1, and then went on to talk about conflict theory and personal reactions. And that was looking at stereotyping, looking at the different types of people that you may see, and specifically the different types of conflict that people would show in a situation like a mediation session, based on Lisa Parkinson's article. So that was a really interesting read. We spoke about what is conflict. We spoke about the types of resolution akin to the types of conflict. And generally, we came to the conclusion that the higher the conflict, the more you know that something important is going on in these people's worlds. And conflict can be both verbal and non-verbal. So we discussed the types of verbal conflict, types of non-verbal conflict, and did a couple of role plays to look at our own conflict management styles and how we actually use them in different situations. So really interesting to see how different people use different conflict management styles when they were in different situations. So that was really good. Then we went on to making mediation safe. All about how you as a mediator and the impartial third party in the room can make the two parties where there may be a power imbalance, where you can make them feel safe. We spoke about how the room is set up. We spoke about them focusing on what they were there for, particularly if they had children, to focus on the children's needs, wishes and feelings, and to look at how that may help them build towards their future and come to some sort of arrangement. We looked at the mediator's body language, calm, businesslike, and also the use of a flip chart and other types of equipment in the room which would assist the mediator to draw the couple's attention away from, or those in dispute, not necessarily just the couple, away from their disagreements and their dispute to actually putting something down on paper. So that was really interesting. We looked at the negotiation process. We looked at positional bargaining and also negotiation. And then we went on to talk about domestic abuse and domestic violence. And we read 1 or 2 articles about that. And also we looked at the feminist critique of mediation, which was a really interesting viewpoint. So then we went on to screening and suitability, which is all part of the DV, domestic violence and child protection. And we looked at various case studies and how they may be suitable for mediation or not. And we looked at the screening process, which is something that happens during the assessment meeting. So this is looking at what the person's case is, what they feel their dispute is, looking at how you as a mediator hear them, sort of jotting down the key points of what the dispute is, and then going through asking them questions about safety, asking them questions about domestic violence, whether that's in a direct or indirect manner is down to the mediator style. Ask them about child protection, about the history with their previous partner, so you know, the date of whether they were married or not, when they decided to separate, whether they had been to court. All these sorts of things are really important when looking at screening somebody. We went on to look at power in the context of family mediation, And so obviously in mediations it's really important to look at relational aspects in terms of power, and this will obviously allow you to assess whether mediation is appropriate or not. And so we went through the principles of power, and then looked at equality and diversity in mediation, and did a few case studies about how our mindsets as mediators, or our experiences or cultures or backgrounds as mediators, may come into the frame. However, the key to being impartial is to put all of those things aside and look at the dispute, take it at face value, and actually mediate from there. So it's really interesting to look at your preconceptions, your stereotypes, experiences, backgrounds, and how that may impact on the situation that you're mediating. We went into a bit about understanding power, and also about discrimination and oppression, which was really interesting. And then we went on to look at the purpose of the initial meeting. And we know from anecdotal evidence that it's really important that you talk the client through exactly what they would be there to do, because very often that may persuade them, or may bring them to a point where they feel that mediation is an option for them, if the mediator spends enough time in that initial meeting with them to talk them through the issues that may arise, as well as their feelings and thoughts about the mediation process. So we focus on the principles of voluntary engagement, of the screening, beginning to establish rules for proceeding, which is really important, the ground rules, the code of conduct that mediators sign up to, but also that the clients sign up to, and then exactly what happens in that meeting. So, you know, we look at the first 4 minutes, what is important to do in those minutes. So smile, use the person's name, establish eye contact, all of those very important things. Then we actually had a basher doing a role play where we filled in one of these assessment forms. So this is National Family Mediation's assessment form. You can see it goes onto the back if there are any particular issues about child protection or financial information. And so worked that through with each other, and did 1 or 2 different role plays in using that, which was quite interesting to see how different types of people do the assessment or approach the assessment. Also the different trainee mediators and their backgrounds. So for instance, we have a couple of teachers, how they may approach it, as to how a counsellor may approach it. So really interesting to go through that. We did talk a bit about the grief cycle, which is this here, coping with change, and very often it's quite good to have that at hand, and talk to clients about where they may be situated in the grief cycle. So that was quite interesting, and that's all part of the agenda point or program item that we did on the emotional impact of divorce. Obviously that's very important in doing family mediation. So spent a lot of time doing role plays and practice, which was really interesting. So that is about it. That's what we did on day 2 of the National Family Mediation training, and tomorrow we go on to day 3. So I will talk you through that when we get there. Thanks for listening.